Well, hello and welcome to the Middle Country Public Library podcast. How are you? I'm Sal DiVincenzo here in the studio with my fabulous, historically accurate, hopefully historically accurate colleague, Jim Ward.
Hi, how are you?
Good, Jim. And if Jim is here, and it hasn't been a long time, because quite frankly, Jim, when you're on the show, our ratings go up, which is very nice. It can only mean one thing.
This Week in History.
And this week,
Yes.
I have no idea what you're going to talk about.
There's a lot, actually.
But there is a lot.
Yeah.
I think there's a big one towards the end of the week, isn't there?
Well, and there's a few throughout that I'm like, I didn't realize they all occurred in the same week. So, yeah.
Very good. So the week that we are focusing on is this week, the week that you're watching this episode, which is
December 1st.
1st, yes.
Through December 7th.
Okay. Very good. December 1st through December 7th has something happening.
1941. I was actually considering doing that voice when I read one of the things.
All right, okay.
We'll see.
We'll see.
If I feel
it's
confident.
Early, yes. Felt cute. Thought I'd do it. All right, Jim. Start off. Let's get going.
Here we go. Here we go. All right.
Okay.
December 1st, 1913. Henry Ford installs the first moving assembly line for the mass production of an entire automobile.
See that? And it changed the world forever.
Yeah. Well, look at how this innovation reduced the time it took to build a car from more than 12 hours to how long do you think it took then?
An hour.
Close. Hour and 33 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can you imagine 12 what was it? 12 hours?
12 hours.
12 hours to build a car, which to me is actually not that bad. When you think about it,
I
right?
would take a year probably. And I don't even know how to do it. So.
Yeah.
But Ford's Model T, which was introduced in 1908, was simple, sturdy, and relatively inexpensive, but not inexpensive enough for Ford, who was determined to build, as he said, motor cars for the great multitude.
Motor cars for the multitude.
And he said, when I'm through, about everybody will have one. And in order to lower the price of his cars, Ford figured he would have to find a way to build them more efficiently, which is this way.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And back then, it was people who were actually doing the line on the line.
Yeah.
On the
not machines.
Not machines. Now it's a mix.
Kind of, yeah.
It's a mix. It's not. Yeah. There's still. Thankfully, there's still people working on the
Absolutely.
line too. Assembling
automobiles.
Assembling. Very good. All right, Jim. There we go. That was December 1st. What else we got?
December 1st, 1955, the birth of the modern American civil rights movement occurred as Rosa Parks was arrested in Montgomery, Alabama for refusing to give up her seat to a white man and move to the back section of a municipal bus.
That was December
1st, 1955.
You know, when you hear things in history, you think of them at different times in your brain. And for some reason, I thought that was like a summer thing. You know?
I know. I never realized that either.
It was in
Isn't that
December.
Something?
Wow. Okay.
So she was arrested. So her arrest resulted in a year-long boycott of the city bus system by African Americans and led to legal actions ending racial segregation on municipal buses throughout the South.
That's right.
So
Rosa Parks.
Rosa Parks. We love her.
Yep.
December 1st, 1989, Mikhail Gorbachev became the first Soviet-Russian leader to visit the Vatican and meet the Pope, thus ending 72 years of strict atheist policy in communist Russia.
Interesting.
Isn't that something?
Yeah. Wow.
December 1st, 1990, England was connected to mainland Europe for the first time since the Ice Age as engineers digging a railway tunnel under the English Channel broke the last rock layer.
Wow.
Isn't that something when you think about that?
Also.
Yeah, so many things.
Wow.
This week, too.
Cool.
December 2nd, 1804, Napoleon Bonaparte was crowned Emperor of France by Pope Pius VII in Paris.
That's crazy.
I didn't understand that part, that the Pope.
Yeah.
I thought he was more,
just like on his own dictator kind of thing.
I don't know about dictator. But,
I think.
Oh, you mean Napoleon?
Bonaparte. Yeah, Napoleon.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah. But I didn't realize the Pope. I
didn't realize that either.
Appointed him that.
Yeah.
That's
See, we're learning something on the podcast.
We learned something here, people.
There you
go. December 2nd, 1823, President James Monroe introduced his Monroe Doctrine during his annual message to Congress, prohibiting any further colonization of the American continents by European powers, stating, quote, "We should consider any attempt on their part to extend their system to any portion of this hemisphere as dangerous to our peace and safety."
That's it. Kitchen's closed.
That's it. No one else.
No more space. Go back. Go home.
And then this one, and I knew this one, but I didn't. I always forget that it was so early in December. December 2nd, 1859. We're getting close.
Here we go.
All right.
Here we go, folks. Here we go, listeners.
Abolitionist leader John Brown was executed for treason at Charlestown, at the time Virginia, which eventually would be West Virginia, following his raid on the U.S. Arsenal at Harper's Ferry. With a group of followers, Brown set out to Harper's Ferry in present-day West Virginia, intending to seize the federal arsenal of weapons and retreat to the Appalachian Mountains of Maryland and Virginia, where they would establish an abolitionist republic of liberated enslaved people and abolitionist whites. At Harper's Ferry on October 16th, that was when the raid happened, his well-trained unit was initially successful, capturing key points in the town, but his plans began to deteriorate after his raiders stopped a Baltimore-bound train and allowed it to pass through, which probably wasn't smart to do if you're trying to accomplish something. So as a result, news of the raid spread quickly, and militia companies from Maryland and Virginia arrived the next day, killing or capturing several raiders. And this is the part I always find very interesting, just because it is so close to when the Civil War began. On October 18th, U.S. Marines commanded by, who do you think?
U.S. Marines commanded by 1850s?
Well, 1859.
1859. It's probably a former or a future president? No? Who is it?
Colonel Robert E. Lee.
Oh, wow.
And Lieutenant Jeb Stuart, both of whom would become famous Civil War generals on the Confederate side.
Interesting.
And they recaptured the arsenal, taking Brown and several other raiders alive. On November 2nd, Brown was sentenced to death by hanging. And on the day of his execution, which was December 2nd, and this is 16 months before the outbreak of the Civil War, Brown prophetically wrote, quote, "The crimes of this guilty land will never be purged away, but with blood."
Oh my goodness!
Isn't that that's a crazy quote?
That is a crazy quote. It's kind of scary too.
And
this is not the first abolitionist who was murdered by a crowd that you've mentioned on this podcast.
I don't think so. Yeah, I think this is a few of them. Yeah,
we
the
did
one in Kansas, right?
The printer.
Yeah,
the publisher.
Where was that? Kansas, I think I said. Or
I don't know where that was, but
but
you did mention
I know.
it on the last one.
It was a very violent time.
Violent time.
Yeah.
And Jimmy somehow focuses on it. Gets right in there.
I just find the Civil War to me is just so like I don't mean amazing. Like, oh, it was so great.
No.
I mean just like we were fighting ourselves,
each other.
Like we disagree today, but
brother v brother.
Yeah,
sister v sister.
Exactly. It was a lot of that on both sides. December 2nd, 1954, the U.S. Senate condemned Senator Joseph McCarthy for misconduct following his ruthless investigations of thousands of alleged communists. December 2nd, 1979, electors in Iran voted overwhelmingly in favor of a new constitution, granting absolute power to Ayatollah Khomeini.
If you look at pictures, and if I can find some, I'll put them up here. What Iran looked like before this happened, like what the people looked like, what the society looked like, what the culture looked like. You would think it's Miami or New York City or something like that. Very cosmopolitan.
Definitely
everybody
different.
was dressed very differently than they're dressed today. There were no police out there doing certain policing of certain things, just to kind of tread lightly. It's amazing how that one
Imagine
moment,
if that vote went another way, things would have been
different.
So different today.
Yeah, interesting.
Let's see, December 2nd, 1982, the first permanent artificial heart was implanted in 61-year-old Barney C. Clark at the University of Utah Medical Center in Salt Lake City. Clark, who was near death at the time of the operation, survived 112 days after the operation.
I remember this. Wow. This I remember.
Is that some?
This I remember as a kid. This was very scary to think about it. Because have you seen it? Like what it looked like? Yeah, it's kind of like
You'll
like
have
a
to,
like a
have to
robot.
post a picture of that or something. Yeah.
Yes, you're giving me all this work to do, Jimmy. I have to. Here's a picture of the artificial
It's
heart.
not me. It's history that's giving you the
right,
work. Let's continue. December 3rd, 1962. Edith Sampson was sworn in as the first African-American female judge after she was elected associate judge of the municipal court in Chicago.
Fantastic.
December 3rd, 1967, another heart one. The first successful heart transplant was performed by Dr. Christian Barnard at Cape Town, South Africa.
Interesting.
On Louis Washkansky, who lived for 18 days.
18 days.
18 days.
Okay,
So
and the
that
other
was
one
the
was
first
112
For
days.
the artificial one.
heart.
Yep.
So it all happened the same week, many years later.
Isn't that weird?
It's very strange.
So strange.
Let's
see.
If Nicole was here, she'd tell us it had something to do with the stars.
The astrology, right?
Yes.
Yeah. December 3rd, 1992. This is an interesting one. I didn't realize how early this happened.
Okay.
The first SMS text message in history is sent.
Oh.
Neil Papworth, a 22-year-old engineer, uses a personal computer to send the text message "Merry Christmas" via, now I'd never heard of this, maybe you've heard of it, the Vodafone network.
Vodafone. Oh,
To the
that's
phone
interesting.
of a colleague.
Yes, Vodafone is a European cell carrier.
Oh, you know what? That makes sense because it says he worked while working for the now defunct Anglo-French IT services company SEMA Group Telecoms.
Which is now
developed
Vodafone, and then I think T-Mobile might have purchased them over.
Vodafone UK. You're right.
Vodafone UK. This Vodafone is how. Yeah. You know what? I always thought the first SMS was "new phone. Who dis?"
But apparently
not.
Apparently, Merry Christmas.
Okay, there you go.
Let's see what else. Anything interesting about this one? So 1 year later, Nokia released the first cell phone with an SMS feature, but messages, which were limited to 160 characters due to bandwidth constraints, could only be sent within the same mobile network. So. At the time, I don't know who was around.
If you had Bell Atlantic, you had to send Bell Atlantic.
That's
Singular. Do you remember Singular?
I do, yeah.
MCI. Do you remember MCI?
I think so, yeah. It wasn't...
It was like 112555543. Yeah.
You had to hit all the numbers a million times.
T9, my folks.
T9?
T9, that was like the system, T9.
Oh.
The letter T9, yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's
what
right
it says.
There.
Oh, look, it says right there on the paper.
It wouldn't be until 1999 that you could send messages across rival communication companies.
Interesting. I mean, again, I'm old, but interesting to think about that relatively not that long ago.
It wasn't that long ago.
25 years, right? This year, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. That's wild to me.
It is wild.
Here we go. December 4th, 1783.
Ooh, 1783.
Future President George Washington, then commanding general of the Continental Army, summons his military officers to Franz Tavern in New York City. I don't know if I had to really do that, but to inform them that he will be resigning his commission and returning to civilian life. Mm-hmm. He led the army through 6 long years of war against the British before American forces finally prevailed at Yorktown in 1781. And at Yorktown, he received the formal surrender of British General Charles Cornwallis, effectively ending the Revolutionary War, although it took 2 more years for the peace treaty to be finalized. As for being at Franz Tavern, observers of the intimate scene, including Colonel Benjamin Talmadge, who wrote an account of Washington's address in the tavern, described Washington as, quote, suffused in tears.
Suffused.
I like that. Embracing his officers one by one after issuing his farewell.
Yeah.
Isn't that something?
We do not use language the way we should be using language nowadays.
That's a word.
I think we went backwards on that.
Yeah. And just
now we would say he was bawling his eyes out. That's what we would say.
He lost it.
He lost it. He literally lost it.
It's just even the way they wrote, if you look at different letters from soldiers home, it's like, my darling Sarah, or it's
exactly.
like
it's very just, everything is very
like now we're just like, hey babe, how's it going?
Yeah, exactly. Yes, you pluck at my heartstrings.
Yeah, exactly.
Not unlike a harpist plucks at their harp in their wonderful
isn't that something
minuet of
You're making it up, but that sounds so much better.
It's terrible.
That sounds so much better than what people write today. So Washington left the tavern for Annapolis, Maryland, where he officially resigned his commission on December 23rd.
I thought you were saying he left the tavern for a nap.
Oh, I mean,
but it's Annapolis.
He really could have used a nap, that man.
Yes, exactly.
He then returned to his beloved estate at Mount Vernon, Virginia, where he planned to live out his days as a gentleman farmer. But he was coaxed out of retirement and became first president of the United States in 1789, which he held until 1797.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah. So you like? I know you're just chilling over here, but I don't know. You want to
come back?
Want to come back?
Want to play a little more?
Yeah, come on, come on.
It'll be fun. You'll be the first prez.
Yeah, yeah. And he ended up, I mean, I think in history, this is historic information here that some of you might not know, but he ended up basically having a dictator-like rule if he wanted to. He was the one who, he could have stayed on 16 years, 20 years if he wanted to, but he said, no, I'm going to step down as president. We should have new precedents on a regular basis. So it almost became a monarchy. Was it monarchy?
Monarchy,
yeah. It almost became a monarchy.
But he decided after 2 terms, and then every president after that stuck to that 2 terms
it wouldn't have been,
until FDR had 4.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been a dictatorship. It probably would have been a monarchy because dictatorship is kind of like the wrong word for that. But
But people at the time,
they were okay with it. They were like, hey, he can be as long as he wants.
He's George Washington.
Yeah,
he can do anything he wants.
Exactly.
Let's see. Let's see if you remember this one. December 4th, 1991, the last American hostage held in Lebanon was released. Journalist Terry Anderson of the Associated Press.
Yes.
He was he was kidnapped on March 16th, 1985.
Yeah,
he was held for 2,454 days, and he was one of 15 hostages held for periods ranging from 2 months to more than 6 years.
Terry Anderson, definitely. That's something. The name. Yep. Amazing.
Here we go. December 4th, 2009. 22-year-old American exchange student Amanda Knox is convicted of murdering her British roommate, Meredith Kircher, in 2007 in, now I apologize if you're Italian.
Go for it. Just do it.
Perugia, Italy.
You did pretty cool.
Is that right?
Perugia.
Yeah. So she received a 26-year prison sentence while her 25-year-old Italian ex-boyfriend, Rafael Salcedo, was also convicted in the slaying and was sentenced to 25 years behind bars. The sensational high-profile case, though, raised questions about whether Knox, who always maintained her innocence, received a fair trial. And then, in October of 2011, an Italian court reversed the murder convictions for both Knox and Salcedo, and they were freed from prison.
Yep.
So, I don't know.
Probably, I mean, look, I didn't follow it as closely.
Yeah, me neither.
It was huge news in Italy, I'll tell you that. Probably just, and I apologize in advance. I'm not saying that she's a stupid girl. I'm just saying, no, I'm not. I'm just saying, in the wrong place at the wrong time and just handling it like a child, because she was a child, and just probably saying stupid things at the time and not realizing the stupid things can lead to what happened in this situation with her. But yeah, I think they had DNA evidence. I think someone actually might have admitted to the crime, confessed to the crime afterwards.
Oh,
but
okay.
Yeah,
I gotta look into that one
it's
now.
a kind of a black eye on the Italian justice system, I have to say. But yeah, at least she's out, and
it resolved itself.
Yeah, yeah. Or we could be wrong, and in 20 years there'll be a Netflix film about it.
Oh, God. I think there alrety was a Netflix thing about it.
Well, no, like a
like a retraction.
Like a retraction.
Yeah. December 5th, 1492.
1492.
Haiti was discovered by Christopher Columbus.
Chris Columbus.
Yep. Thus leading to the exploration that eventually led to the United States of America.
To the United States.
December 5th, 1791, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart died a pauper at 35 in Vienna, Austria. During his brief life, he created over 600 musical compositions and is widely considered to be one of the finest composers who ever lived.
Fine composer. No, really. I mean,
no, he's great. I mean,
I think for me, modern musicians, who write really good songs, if you listen to them and take them apart, you can find a little bit of Mozart, a little bit of Beethoven, you can find a little bit of the, Chopin, you can find, all these original composers, little pieces of them in their music, and it still works.
Interesting.
It still works.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, our very
Mozart.
own Billy Joel, if you listen to any Billy Joel music, it's like, it's built on a classical foundation.
Even Uptown Girl?
Yes. Yes. Have you ever heard him play Uptown Girl, like a classical song? Oh, yeah. YouTube it. It's cool. He does the whole thing. It's really nice. Love
December 5th, 1933. Everyone was happy about this, I feel like, because the 18th Amendment to the Constitution it was repealed after 14 years, which it had outlawed the manufacture, transportation, and sale of alcoholic beverages in the United States. So I'm sure a lot of people were happy about that at the time.
Yes, the end of Prohibition, right?
The end of Prohibition,
Yeah, Prohibition, yes.
So I realized I put this in here, but I don't know if it was December 5th or 6th, but I put it in here for you.
December 5th. Go ahead.
Walt Disney
December 5th.
was born in Chicago, Illinois. As a little boy, he liked to draw farm animals and eventually got a job as an artist.
Yes.
Moved to Hollywood and in 1928 produced
1928? Oh, Steamboat Willie?
Steamboat Willie.
Okay, 28, yeah, that's right.
And in
Mickey Mouse.
1937 released his first full-length animated film, which was
Snow White.
Correct. And
Which they're about to ruin next year. Okay, go ahead.
What? What are they doing?
They're doing a live action Snow White.
Oh, no. Why did we do this?
Okay, keep going.
He opened Disneyland Amusement Park in Anaheim.
1955.
Wow, you were good. 5 years after his death, Disney World opened in Florida.
1971.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
It didn't mention the date.
Yeah, October 1971.
And of course, as we know, it's grown into a global empire now.
A global empire. That's, teetering right now. Let's hope. We can hope and pray.
Oh, not Disney.
Not Disney, yeah.
December 6th, 1865, the 13th Amendment to the Constitution was ratified, abolishing slavery forever and for all time.
Fantastic. Yeah.
December 6th, 1877, at his laboratory in West Orange, New Jersey, Thomas Edison spoke the children's verse, "Mary Had a Little Lamb," while demonstrating his newly invented phonograph, which utilized a revolving cylinder wrapped in tinfoil to record sounds.
Again, I thought it was, new record player. Who dis? That's what I thought it was, the first
Who
one.
this? Who dis?
Who this?
And you got to say dis.
Yeah. That's the meme, folks.
Here we go. December 6th, 1884.
1884.
Washington, D.C. Workers place a 9-inch aluminum pyramid inscribed with, now, this is probably like Latin or something, so I might be butchering it.
Oh, here we go.
Laus Deo, meaning praise be to God, atop a tower of white marble, completing the construction of
the Washington Monument?
The Washington
was 1884. 84?
Yep.
Wow. I did not realize it was that early. For some reason, I thought it was wow. I thought it was like early 1900s that they finished it.
It's funny. I thought you were going to say the opposite. I thought it was so much further back.
No. The Egyptians got us on that one. They built all that stuff way before us.
But would you like to know why it took so long, though, to get to 1884?
Well,
because this was actually a process.
I'm curious,
Construction began on July 4th, 1848.
48?
Okay.
Okay.
The cornerstone was laid. It was a 24,500-pound block of pure white marble.
Yeah, sure.
6 years later, with funds running low, construction was halted. And around the time the Civil War began in 1861, Mark Twain described the unfinished monument as looking like, quote, a hollow, oversized chimney. So no further progress was made until 1876, which was the centennial of American independence, when President Ulysses S. Grant authorized construction to be completed. Made of 36,000 blocks of marble and granite, stacked 555 feet in the air, the monument was the tallest structure in the world at the time. Of its completion in December 1884, and in the 6 months following the dedication, over 10,000 people climbed the nearly 900 steps to the top of the monument.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. Isn't that something?
It's something.
Let's see.
We're coming up to a big one, I think.
Yeah,
right?
soon. We're coming up soon to it. I got a couple more, and then we're going to get to that one. December 6th, 1973, Gerald Ford was sworn in as vice president under Richard Nixon following the resignation of Spiro Agnew, who pleaded no contest to charges of income tax evasion.
Wow.
Big day on December 7th, 1787, Delaware became the first state to adopt the new Constitution of the United States.
Wow. December,
yeah.
Again, this first week of December, lots of interesting things happening, like almost in parallel, years apart from each other.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
It's freaky.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. And this is the final one. December 7th, 1941, the U.S. naval base at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, was attacked by nearly 200 Japanese aircraft in a raid that lasted just over an hour and left nearly 3,000 Americans dead. With diplomatic negotiations with Japan breaking down, President Franklin D. Roosevelt, and his advisors knew that an attack was imminent, but nothing had been done to increase security at the important naval base. And it was a Sunday morning, and many military personnel were given passes to attend religious services off base. And at 7:02 a.m., 2 radar operators spotted large groups of aircraft coming toward the island from the north. But because there was a flight of B-17s that were expected from the United States, that's around that same time, they were told not to worry, not to alarm,
or thought that's who it was.
They thought that's who it was, but the Japanese air assault came as a devastating surprise to the naval base, and much of the Pacific Fleet was rendered useless. 5 of 8 battleships, 3 destroyers, and 7 other ships were sunk or severely damaged, and more than 200 aircraft were destroyed. I mean, and that's nothing compared to the lives lost, but can you imagine the devastation just strewn about? So a total of about 2,400 Americans were killed, 1,200 wounded, many while valiantly attempting to repulse the Japanese attack. Japan's losses were some 30 planes, 5 midget submarines, and fewer than 100 men. Fortunately, though, for the United States, all 3 Pacific Fleet carriers were out at sea on training maneuvers, and these giant aircraft carriers would have their revenge against Japan 6 months later at the Battle of Midway, reversing the tide against the previously invincible Japanese Navy in a spectacular victory. The day after Pearl Harbor was bombed, and this is where I want to do the voice, President Roosevelt appeared before a joint session of Congress and declared,
Here we go.
Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy, the United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan.
The Empire of Japan.
Empire of Japan, yes. Not empire. So after a brief and forceful speech, he asked Congress to approve a resolution recognizing the state of war between the U.S. and Japan.
Let's go, yeah.
The Senate voted for war against Japan by 82-0, and the U.S. House of Representatives approved the resolution by a vote of 388-1.
And that was
the one we spoke about last time.
Yeah.
The sole dissenter was Representative Jeanette Rankin of Montana, a devout pacifist who had also cast the dissenting vote against the U.S. entrance into World War I. 3 days later, Germany and Italy declared war against the U.S., and the U.S. government responded in kind.
There you go.
So that's the big one for that week.
The big one. And we did a whole special episode, I think, on... I don't know if it was last year or the year before.
For History Bites?
No, not for History Bites. It was a podcast episode about December 7th.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, we did that. Yeah. I do think it was a video podcast, so it was probably last year.
Well, it would have been the 80th anniversary.
So it was last year.
No, it would have been 3 years ago.
3 years ago.
3 years ago,
but we did it. It's out there,
We did it at
folks.
some point.
It's out there. So if I find it, I'll look it up, and you can watch it. Or you can visit our website, mcplpodcast.com. In the upper right-hand corner, there's the search bar, a little icon for the magnifying glass, the search icon. Type in type in This Week in History. And then you'll see all of This Week in Histories. Go to our YouTube page and do a search for History Bites and see all of Jim's amazing History Bite videos that we've done
Which
over
I
the years.
think there is one on Pearl Harbor.
There's also
I'm
one on
99%
Pearl Harbor.
sure
Yeah,
I did
we did
one.
it a bunch of times, I think. Yeah, because it's an important thing,
Yeah,
you know.
everyone
Yeah,
should know about it.
So, Jimmy,
Yes.
thank you so much for
My
joining
pleasure.
us for
This Week in History.
It's always a pleasure. having
Always
you
a
here.
pleasure, my friend. Thank
And
you.
it's always a pleasure having you here. Join us every week on the podcast. And like I said, Jimmy's episodes are always big ones. We always get a lot of viewers, a lot of listeners, and I appreciate that. That's why I bring him on more often now by popular demand. And look, if you liked what you saw today, hit the like button. Mm-hmm. And please subscribe because we have great things coming up this month as we wrap up 2024. And we have a lot, hopefully, planned for 2025
Absolutely.
that we're working behind the scenes to do some out of the studio shows.
Ooh,
some
nice.
special things for the channel and for you.
Sounds fun.
Yes. So thank you so much for joining us this week in history. Oh,
This, I didn't know we were going to do it again.
Let's try it again. Thank you so much for joining us for
This Week in History.
And we hope that you join us next week. So for Jim Ward, I'm Sal DiVincenzo. See you on the next show.